Mr. Deputy Speaker, let me now turn to how CareShield Life, the CareShield Life scheme, can remain sustainable for generations of Singaporeans to come. Minister Gan had explained how long-term care insurance schemes like ElderShield and CareShield Life are pre-funded to ensure long-term sustainability. In designing the scheme, we want to ensure that premiums paid by each generation during their working years can support their future claims when they grow old. And this minimizes intergenerational transfers so that as our population ages and our families get smaller, claims made by the older generation can be met without having the younger generation shoulder a heavier financial burden. It is an important part of ensuring long-term sustainability, especially when we are facing an aging society. Ms. Chia Yong Yong, Mr. Zainal Sapari, Mr. Ang Wei Neng, and Ms. Ting Pei Ling asked why 3.3 billion in premiums for ElderShield were collected and only 133 million were paid out as claims. Mr. Pritam Singh touched on this in his speech too. Mr. Leon Pereira and Mr. Peng Eng Huat also asked how premiums are determined. Allow me to explain. In pre-funded insurance schemes like ElderShield and CareShield Life, premiums are collected when the policy holders are younger and working, so that the fund has enough resources to meet their future claims when they grow old and are no longer paying premiums. As SMS Call mentioned earlier, the coverage is for life. It is therefore logical and necessary for the scheme to show a positive balance when policyholders are younger and less likely to be severely disabled. And this also answers Dr. Lily Neo's question on why the number of claimants are currently low. ElderShield policyholders are still relatively young, with a median age of 52 in 2017. However, as policyholders grow older and more of them become severely disabled, the balance amount that we see today will be gradually used up to pay for their claims. This balance amount is not profit. It is to meet future liabilities. If a pre-funded scheme does not have a positive balance when its policyholders are younger, the scheme is actually in trouble. It means there will not be enough financial resources to meet future liabilities. And when policyholders grow older and more of them start to claim, the scheme will have difficulties making the payouts. The balance amounts for ElderShield that are currently with the 3 private insurers will be properly accounted for. We are working on this with the insurers. Mr. Pritam Singh asks about the statistic of 1 in 2 Singaporeans aged 65 and above could become severely disabled in their lifetime. And this is based on a mix of local and international data sources. For example, in 2016, US Department of Health and Human Services estimated that 52% of Americans turning 65 in 2016 would develop a disability serious enough to require long-term care. It is important to remember that the premium calculations are based on a complex actuarial model with many factors, and not just on one number. I do not intend to go through the technical details of the actuarial model in this House, but let me say that the premium pricing model was done by professional actuaries in line with internationally accepted industry standards. Some factors that they incorporated in their model include the disabled mortality rate, recovery rate, claims continuance rate, mortality rate, improvements to mortality rate, disability incidence, prevalence rate, as well as the risk profile for various cohorts. In addition, premiums for the existing cohorts need to take into account their circumstances. For example, some are on ElderShield 300, some are on ElderShield 400, and some are not insured at all. We will discuss with the Council and the actuaries on how best to share information on the details and assumptions for CareShield Life meaningfully. Mr. Zainal Sapari asked about the considerations in having the government administer CareShield Life instead of the private insurers. Sir, the scheme will be administered by the government on a not-for-profit basis, where all premiums collected and any returns from investments will remain entirely within the fund and used fully for the benefit of policyholders. I thank Mr. Leon Pereira for mentioning this point in his speech earlier. It also facilitates the provision of government subsidies and financial support to Singaporeans and provides greater flexibility for the government to make future enhancements to the scheme. There will be no change in contractual terms for ElderShield policyholders who choose to remain on their existing ElderShield 300 or 400 schemes. And this also applies to their ElderShield supplements. ElderShield policyholders will be no worse off and will continue to be covered by these insurance schemes. The government will set up an independent council by legislation comprising people with relevant expertise and background. And we agree with Ms. Joan Pereira that the council should consider views from social workers, healthcare professionals, and insurance experts. The council will regularly review and recommend changes in premiums and payouts, guided by professional advice from independent actuaries, and decide on the optimal investment strategy of the fund. The Council's recommendations will be made public. The Agency for Integrated Care, AIC, which has experience in implementing disability schemes, will work with CPF Board, which has experience in managing insurance schemes, to administer CareShield Life. CPF Board will also be the administrator of the CareShield Life Fund and will ensure that the funds are safeguarded for the benefit of policyholders. The annual financial statements will be made publicly available. Dr. Chashalu and Mr. Ang Wei Nen asked how premiums and payouts will be adjusted. We envision the adjustment framework to work like this. If claims are lower than the amount assumed in the actuarial modeling and calculations, the CareShield Life Council could recommend higher payout increases or provide policyholders with premium rebates in subsequent years. Conversely, if claims are higher than what was originally assumed in the actuarial modeling and calculations, the Council could recommend raising premiums or slowing down payout increases to ensure the scheme remains sustainable. So I would like to clarify that it is not what Mr. Peng Eng Huat had said earlier, that CareShield Life premiums will be increased to pay for losses due to risky investments. That will not be the case. The government will invest the funds prudently to earn stable returns. What is not possible to predict with full accuracy are factors such as the frequency and duration of claims. Mr. Deputy Speaker, we have a responsibility to design CareShield Life so that it remains sustainable for generations to come.